So now I'd like to invite the panel up. If George could come up, Carly, Seth, and Matt, make your way to the stage. So for this first half of the event, there was actually an event in Philly called the Philly Inside Hustle, where they kind of had the same format. They had full-time musicians kind of presenting a program of how they make music work as a full-time career. So we thought we'd have some of the local musicians around here kind of do that same for you, and then after that, we'll dismiss everybody to meet people in the different industries where you can advance your music career, or you could learn more about the local music community. So we'll send you down here and that at 2 p.m., but without further ado, let's give it up for George, Carly, Seth, and Matt.
Hello everybody, my name is George Wacker with Lehigh Valley with Love. I want to first thank Ryan and Doug again for making this happen. This is an incredible crowd to be in here at the Ice House on a Sunday. And the aim of this panel is to make sure that we talk about getting involved in local community, sharing music industry experiences, turning music into a full-time career, enjoying the journey. But to get started, we got to meet all you wonderful people. So, Carly, can you kick it off? Can you kind of introduce us to yourself and give us your story of when did you first get involved with music in general?
Ooh, okay. Well, hello everybody. My name is Carly Comando. I'm a musician. I play in the band Slingshot, Dakota. And I also write music for film and TV, and I also just write instrumental music for myself. I've been a musician my entire life. I played piano as soon as I could reach the keys, and just really fell in love with performing. My parents tried to classically train me, and I hated it, so I was more interested in writing my own compositions and just playing what I wanted to. So it's no surprise that I fell in love with like punk and DIY, because it was all about doing what you wanted to do. And so, yeah, I've always been playing music. Slingshot Dakota formed when I was in college, when Tom wasn't even the drummer. It was with my two friends, and we just loved playing music together. And one day, I remember they said, when we graduate college, we want to do this as a career band. And I was like, we can't do that. Like, who does that? My parents won't let me do that. And it was never the intent. We were just a band for fun. So I was really confused as to like the trajectory as where we were going. But I really loved playing music, and I loved hanging out with my friends. So I found a part-time job that allowed me to tour, and kept doing that. And then in 2006, my ex-boyfriend had one of like the first viral YouTube videos. Noah takes a picture of himself every day for 12 years or 6 years, whatever it was. Does anyone remember that video? Yeah. That was my ex-boyfriend. And so it was like some other woman had been doing the same audio-visual project as him, but for not as long of a time. And I guess he wanted to strike while the iron was hot, and he wanted to get his video on YouTube right away. And so I was literally about to go to my waitressing shift, and he said, Carly, I need a song like right now, because I'm gonna post this tomorrow. And I said, okay. And I just wrote a song really quick while watching his video. It was like a little bit too fast for the video, so I literally just like, I took the tempo down of the recorded version, and then I just recorded the audio out, and then that video went viral, and then my licensing career started, all because of this completely lucky instance in which my ex-boyfriend had a viral YouTube video. So yeah, it opened up this whole other world to me that I always dreamed of having, but I never thought it was possible for me. And the intention of writing that song was just very in the moment, just trying to help out my friend, like get his video watched, because it was, if you remember, it's 6 minutes of someone's face. And I was like, how do I make this exciting for people?
Is he still doing that today?
He's still doing it,
really?
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
And I will say, when he released like another version of it without me, because we had broken up, and the views were much less because the music was not as good. And so he hired me again to do it for his third one.
And if you pause it, you can see the day you broke up, he's like really sad.
No, he looks the same in every picture. But so yeah, so that experience was like a complete thing that I wasn't expecting in my life, but it was something that, you know, I've always wanted to play music. I love music so much, and it's like the ultimate dream to be able to pay your bills with music, and it's not one I ever thought I would achieve, hence always having some kind of part-time job. And I've just been really lucky that my band Slingshot Dakota has been busy enough and fortunate enough to, it's what we love doing, but it's been nice to pay the bills with when we're more active than we are. And just to play music and be able to score film and be a part of other people's projects and be able to communicate my expression through music has been really cool. And so, yeah, that's me.
Thank you. I should know that we are going to open this up for Q&A at the end. We're going to have a good amount of time. So all those things that you're thinking about, keep them to yourself at the end. But no, because that's so interesting. I want to talk more about licensing. But let's get to Seth Witcher. I'm sure you guys are all aware of Seth, working hard all the time in Lehigh Valley. Can you tell us your music story? When did you start, and when did you start working as hard as you are now?
Okay. First off, hi. Hi, I'm Seth. I feel like I'm in like an AA meeting. Hello, I'm Seth. So I first started singing when I was really young, but I didn't take it seriously until I graduated high school. I first went to Lehigh University for robotic engineering. So my musical journey has kind of like had a slow start, and now it's all I do. But I went to Lehigh University for robotic engineering. I was there for like 2 years, worked as an engineer. I hated it. So I just decided to pursue my dreams and just do what makes me happy, and that's music. So, I started just knocking on doors. I grew up, just knowing that if I want anything, I can work for it. And if I work hard enough, then I can make it happen. That's just kind of been the story of my family's life. That's just, the story of my life. So started going to, any bar I could find. And then I'd go between, the time when they're not busy, like 2 to 4 p.m. And I would just bring my guitar and sing a song for the manager. And then, ask if I could have a show there. And that's how I got started. Thankful I don't have to do that anymore, but it's cool that I know how to do it, and that's kind of how I got started. I don't know, I'm honored to be here because it feels like maybe like 4 years ago I'd be in the audience just like not knowing how to get started with anything, that I enjoy, get started with this music journey. Now I'm here, all I do is music full-time. I don't have a job. I get to sing and make people happy, and that pays my bills. And I also do produce my own music, I'm just thankful to be here. So that's me.
And of course, I think many people in this room know Matt Molchany, the owner of Shards Recording Studio.
Hi.
If you haven't been in there, you can check out, we just did a tour. It was a lot of fun. I walked in, we went through the studio. Some people may not be aware of it, so can you tell us your musical journey?
Yeah, kind of like Carly. I started really, really young, like 2 and 3 years old. My dad cut drums so I could actually be low enough to play. And then there was a piano around, so I started playing piano, and my dad being like a gigging musician at night at the time, instruments would come and go, so I kind of never really got good at one. I just kind of played a whole bunch of each one, which kind of followed me the rest of my life. In my teens, I got some recording equipment, and I started to teach myself how to record. 20s, I toured a whole bunch in DIY bands and stuff like that. And now I spent the last 9 years being full-time recording over in Southside Bethlehem. And that's me.
I like how we all decided to end them with, and that's me.
Well, now let's get into more of the conversation about some of the things that you were talking about specifically. So maybe with Seth, you were talking about how you would perform for restaurant managers right in there.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that journey from, wow, I don't even know if I can get a gig in here, to now I'm sure you have some places coming to you for gigs. In fact, I know that because I've been on some organizations that have booked you. So for some of the people in the audience who are like, wow, I am where you are at. I gotta go sing for this, maitre d'.
Yeah.
How is that? How frustrating was it? And how did you overcome that to get where you are now?
So before I took music seriously, like I mentioned before, I sang when I was younger, and to be honest, I was made fun of. And because I was made fun of by family and I wasn't mature enough of myself to just, stick with it, I stopped, and I wouldn't sing for anybody for like 10 years. And throughout that time, my family, they've always told me, like, oh, Seth, you've got the best voice in the family, or whatever. Sing for us, man. And I would never do it. I was constantly beating myself up. I was constantly my own worst enemy. I was not a friend to myself. So when it came time where I was like, yo, when I said I don't care what people think and I'm just gonna sing, that's truly how I felt. So for me, I didn't feel like a fear to go sing for a manager. I mean, like, yeah, I feel excited, like right now I feel excited, like I'm shaking, like you feel excited because it's like something new and people are looking at you and they're judging you, whatever, but, the no's didn't bother me and they still don't, because nobody can hurt me more than I've hurt myself. I'm stuck in my head, living that way. Not being able to do it makes you happy. So, I just made a decision. That's really all you gotta do. Just make a decision, start taking steps, walk into that bar, walk into the restaurant, take your guitar, take your little, I don't even know, harmonica or whatever, and just do it. And then, you'll get no's, but I think it was Benjamin Franklin. He said, every no that you get is one no less to a yes. So you've got a yes coming. I'm gonna tell this real quick story. So when I first started playing, I was not very good, but I didn't know I wasn't good. I sucked, and I didn't know it. So my first show I was booed, during the 3-hour show, and but I was just happy that I actually sang for 3 hours. Wow, So I reached out to this one bar, and I sent them some videos of me performing because they didn't want me to sing in their nice establishment, during hours or whatever. So didn't hear back from them. I called a week later, just following up with the manager, and the guy was like, yeah, honestly, Seth, I just don't like your voice. You're just not good enough, so I don't want you to sing here. And I was like, okay. And at this point, I was in Lehigh, so I remember specifically, I was right outside of my chemistry course, chemistry lab. I was just looking up at the sky. It was like a movie moment. I was looking up at the sky on the phone, hang up, slowly drop it, just my hopes and dreams. Somebody just told me I suck. The thing that kept me from singing for 10 years happened again. But this time I've got this adult brain and I'm really thinking about what they said. But then I hear a voice in my head. I'm like, yo, what if I just take a step from here? What happens if I go one more day? And what if I talk to one more person about my music? What if I get up? What happens then? And I'll tell you what happened. A year later, the same manager hired me. I don't think he remembered it was me. He hired me to play at a show. I was playing and people weren't leaving. They were like, the music is so good, oh my God. And he was like, hey Seth, look, man, people love it. Can you play another hour? I'll pay you extra. I'm like, no. I played here, I proved to myself that, hey, I did it, in my head, little, F you, kind of. But it was cool. It was cool. I took a step. I didn't give up. I kept going, and I proved even myself wrong. So, I don't know if that answers your question.
It does, and it brings up another one that I had here concerning dealing with criticism. So, Carly, as somebody who's toured the nation, dealt with a lot of people. I'm sure you've read some reviews, some great,
yeah.
some maybe not so great. Maybe one. How do you deal with that, honestly, as an artist?
Well, your story made me think about, talking about YouTube, there would be times where we would play a show and I would watch the video of our playing a show and I'd be like, ew, my voice sounds really bad, it must be that PA. And then I would watch another video and I go, ooh, my voice sounds really bad, it must be that PA. And then I got to the point where I'm like, I can't keep blaming this on the PA system. My singing kind of sucks. In this live setting, I'm trying to hit these notes that I can't hear because I'm not playing with earplugs. And me and Tom back then were practicing in whatever spaces we could. probably not with a PA system because we just didn't have one accessible. And so I was actually my harshest critic, being like, it's weird that people like this because I sound awful. And like, it was my thing of being like, I need to get better. I want to make sure that when I watch my playback videos, I can be like, ooh, I sound real good. So I took that information for myself to be like, how can I be a better vocalist? How can I improve my singing? Because I am not comfortable with this, even though the crowd seems to enjoy it, you know, like that's wonderful, but I don't like it. So I wanted to start with that because I want to be happy with my art. Like I do this for me, and the fact that it resonates with other people is like the huge bonus that we get to connect to each other through art and music. That's like the biggest gift of music itself. But I mean, I play music for me, it's my expression, it's my therapy, and if I'm hearing the playback and kind of like cringing at it, then that's a bad sign. So it helped me work. But in terms of feedback, I don't know, I think it's definitely one of those things where you grow a thick skin, and I think as an adult, if I read feedback, sometimes I try to like, before I have an emotional reaction, I say, is it true? Like let me think about this. And then there's other times where I'm like, this is just someone who like does not like music like mine, who's having an opinion about it. So like, why would they like it? So it really depends, like on my confidence. I feel like at this point too, as an adult, like when I release music, you know, as you progress as an artist, you're getting better and better at your craft. So I always feel like when I release a record, whether it's a solo record or a band record, we're like, this is the best one yet. Because it's weird if you put out a new record and you're like, this isn't the best one yet. Like, it's not good. So I feel like because you progress and you advance as an artist, you get more confident in how to express yourself and how to do it well. And you have people like Matt too, that like good recording engineers know how to like get your sound across so that people can hear you on recording as you sound live. And so I feel like that's definitely been a growth thing and something that's definitely not easy. There's times where I've read comments that are just like absolutely silly. Like when I was part of a YouTube, like a viral YouTube video, there's like weird comments about music that I'm just like, what? Someone wrote me a comment being like, one person wrote me saying that they were literally hired to rip me off for like a commercial, which I was like, now I look back on it, I'm like, I could have sued them. Why did I hold on to that? I was just like, oh, cool. But then I had people that were just like, would be really rude and be like, this is a rip off of this. And I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, there's only a certain amount of chords and melodies in the world. And like, whatever song you're saying, like, I get that. But like, I wrote this literally before going to work, so I don't know, I can't respond. So I feel like I take everything with a grain of salt, I guess is my response to that. And I feel like in addition to like the no's of life, I feel like bad comments and no's, they're an event. They're not my identity, right? And they're not your identity. Those things are either gonna help you grow and you're gonna be resilient, you're gonna bounce back and take those learning lessons with you. And if they're just complete comments that are just rude and trolly, then I just, you know, get out of here.
It's easier said than done sometimes.
I know.
But to that point, Matt, as somebody who's recording these bands, you know, when a band comes in and maybe they're not sounding as perfect as they should be, how do you deal with the other side of that, giving criticism in a way that's constructive and not stopping them from singing for 10 years?
We just have to be really, you know, treat everybody like a person and not treat them like a product. I just like to approach it like very holistically and address everything like head on and really clearly, but like, you know, understand where they're coming from. And I think asking a ton of questions of an artist really can inform how you communicate together too. It's easy to just hear something that's wrong and like react. Just like how Carly got some, you know, comment, you wanted to react at the comment. You might hear something that sounds off and like jump at it, but that's like you said, that might shut someone down. You know what I mean? I don't want to shut anybody down. I actually want to get them to just keep moving, keep going. You know what I mean? Keep outputting, and then we'll just figure out what we like. You just keep doing something until something sticks, you know?
I think it's a good approach to it. Carly, you mentioned DIY, and I think DIY is maybe the theme of this event to a degree. Can you talk a little bit about that, what maybe DIY means to you when you're touring the country? It seems like there's a discrepancy there. Like, how is this still DIY, even though it is? But can you talk a little bit about what goes into the planning of that and what your thoughts are on DIY itself?
Sure. So I grew up in DIY. I grew up in Long Island, and when I was a teenager, like our local DIY community was really strong. And it was just your stereotypical punk hardcore scene. And while I wasn't in love with all of the music, I was really in love with the idea of you create your present situation. You create the future you want to see. You can't rely on anyone else to do that for you. And when you're a teenager, you're like always rallying against the mainstream. So why wouldn't you fall in love with something that's empowering you to like be the change, you know? At that point, there wasn't really any women playing those shows either. And I remember being like, I'm so much better than like half these boys. And like I was inspired by them, but I also wasn't seeing myself in them at all. And so, I don't know, I just really loved that ideal of just do what you want to do. Like, you don't have to wait for the manager to hire you. You can, you know, even like listening to Doug talk about the stage. I'm like, you don't even need a stage. If you really want to connect to people, you're going to be eye level with them. To this day, my favorite shows, even though I have to bring in like all of my gear because it probably means I'm playing like a very, you know, chill VFW hall. My favorite shows are when I'm literally on the same floor length, you know, floor height as people, because that to me is what I grew up with. Like that connection is what I grew up with. That like just being so close to everyone, connecting through art, like that's how I grew up in music, and I love that. And so yeah, that mission ties into you start your own band, you ask the people that you meet in your community, can my band play? You actually make genuine connections like with the people to the shows you're going to. You don't just go to shows just to like schmooze. You go to shows because you're genuinely part of that community. And you meet people, and like through those friendships and connections, you just, you know, you start thriving, you start performing more. And then once that happens, once you kind of tap into your local scene, you know, maybe you have friends that live like a half an hour away, an hour away, then you start playing farther and farther. And the more that you start expanding that circle, the more you can start doing something like, you know, a United States tour. But again, like it's really hard. It's all about those connections that you meet, and about helping each other out. And like, even with Slingshot Dakota, when we started, I'm from New York, so my bandmates, all of us were from Long Island, and our drummer at that point was in another band, and he was going on tour. So I said, we did all this work, and now we can't even play. We don't have a drummer. Tom, who's Tommy rocks today, who's yeah, doesn't he look great? He's scouting talent today. But Tom is from here. He's from Pennsylvania. And I remember someone being like, oh, Tom P plays drums. He loves Slingshot Dakota. He'll want to play with you. And you might think, like, how is this some guy from Pennsylvania? And this is like, what year was it? Like 2004 or 5? Like the internet was around, but like not like it is today. We knew of each other's bands because we played in the same scenes. Like like his band would come play New York, my band would come play Pennsylvania, because it was close enough of a distance that it wasn't too far. But those communities in like punk and hardcore, especially like in certain regions, are so close that everybody kind of knows everyone just from friendship. And so it's just wild, even at this point, that Slingshot Dakota has like literally relocated to Pennsylvania because Tom was a drummer from here. I'm just a girl from Long Island, and then I moved here. And yeah, so it's like that's all because of the power of DIY and that like music community, and just like really genuinely making connections with people that have the same interest as you.
And Seth, you're a solo artist. I mean, but you do, you have a drummer. I've seen you play with other musicians, so it might be slightly different. But how is networking with other musicians vital to what you're doing?
It's everything. People are everything. Yeah, I mean, honestly, the whole industry is run on who you know. It's not even really about talent, Like, talent gets you in the door, but it's the connections that you have that will get you farther. So, honestly, I kind of just learned this recently. I learned this recently, and I want y'all to remember this. This is something that will change your life, okay? It's so easy to look at people that you're talking to. If they have something that you want or something that you need, looking at them like they're a piece of meat, right? Like you're just focusing on, what they can do for you. And it's not really about an actual connection. It's just about a transactional thing. And I think when you have that, just that mindset, when you're like, okay, this person can do this for me, this person, whatever, they can tell. And I think you limit your chance to impact more people. If it's music, for instance, I recently, within like the past 2 years or so, I've been learning to really just value each moment, each conversation, each relationship as a relationship, Like, that person might not do anything for you, but that's okay. Like, you had a moment to literally just tap into somebody's mindset and just listen for a second, That's what matters. So, on top of being a, singer and a performer and stuff, I book shows at a venue called The Fire in Philadelphia. That's a venue that John Legend used to play a lot. My Chemical Romance, Jason Mraz, a lot of them, they would just play there. It's a nice little legendary club. And I got that gig because I sat down and had lunch with the owner. A friend of mine was like, yo, Seth, okay, you played a show at The Fire. She likes you. She wants you to do another show. But instead of doing that, before you do that, let's go get some lunch. And so, in my mind, I'm like, why would I want to go drive an hour and a half to go just grab lunch, Like,
This would be a Zoom call, right?
Yeah, right. I mean, like why? Like, in that time, I could be making some music, or I could be singing, I could be making some money, whatever. But he was like, nah, man, like, you should definitely go have lunch. And we didn't even talk about music the whole time. Like, what you'll learn when you are having these conversations with people who are in the industry or people who are doing things, it's not even about the thing that you are interested in or whatever. A lot of times, you really are just building a genuine connection. And then after the lunch, she was like, oh, hey, Seth, by the way, I love the show that you did. I want you to do a show for us, like, once a month or so, And, like, now, like, she'll reach out to me whenever and say, hey, Seth, I've got, like, these dates. Can you make them work? Whatever. And I'm honored to be able to do that because now I'm a part of the Philly music scene. Now I'm bringing it even, like, cooler energy and name to The Fire. I'll have people come up to me and say, like, yo, I haven't come to this place in 20 years, but I saw your shows and I was like, wow, this is really cool. I got to come back to The Fire again. And all that happened because I had a conversation. And I wasn't really looking for anything, just looking at it like a conversation. You're valuable, you're beautiful, you're a person, you're not an object. And, neither are the people that you are going to be talking to or whatever. So that's something that will save you years. If you can get over that and just not look at people like they're a piece of meat, then you'll be golden. Seriously. Yeah.
Taking to lunch.
That's right.
Sit down.
Take them to lunch. They're not lunch. That's what that is.
Okay, put that on a t-shirt. Matt, you've produced multiple bands. You've been around what these guys are talking about. I mean, you've been in bands as well. How important do you feel it is to, I don't know, maybe become friends, but to network with the other bands that are playing in some of the other venues? You maybe coming across them. Is it worthwhile to network with them as well?
Oh, of course. I mean, this is all connected, look at this tonight. This is all Ice House Punk and DIY put this together, but there's people who aren't even necessarily directly connected to that here right now, and that speaks volumes right away. You know what I mean? I can build off of what both of them were saying I think I had like one pivotal moment when I was 14. I played my first show at a punk venue in town called Scarlett O'Hara's. And yeah, some of you remember that. It was a dingy venue right next to where the Boyd used to be. And I played a show and then I realized, oh wow, there's a flyer for a show somewhere else. And then I saw another flyer for a show somewhere else in town. And then this led me to going to other shows. And at those shows, I met other musicians. I met other people doing the same thing, having bands come and play their town, like sending their bands to another town. And then I came across this resource called Book Your Own Effin' Life. And I didn't put it down for years. And it really, honestly, it expanded my worldview. I didn't know that there are so many communities of people like me who are just wanting to do this themselves and take the power and make it happen instead of waiting for it to happen. Poured through this magazine forever, and I think that the the attitude that I got from, that I learned basically at that venue and booking shows and playing shows and meeting people, you kind of realize like how important all these connections are. I'd be nowhere if it wasn't for that. I moved to California based on like a weird connection that my band made when I was like 19 or 20. Like there's a website called mp3.com, and it was actually like a social networking music website, and I wish there was something like this again, because it'd be huge. But you could search by town, search by genre and stuff like that, and someone found my band, and like my band was charting a little bit locally, and then we actually cracked onto like a regional chart and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, and then we saw some of the bands who were also breaking onto that. We like hit them up like, hey, you sound like us, you're like us, and we kind of like create this little community for each other. We wound up moving to California because of this. I stayed there for 8 years. Like this label signed us and released a record for us. We did a tour. We played some Warped Tour dates. Like this was all from one little like message to somebody.
Your MySpace message.
It was pre-MySpace. I know I'm dating myself. Pre-MySpace.
Very good.
MySpace was fancy and new to us.
Can you guys talk, Caryl, I'll start with you. What are some mistakes, or what is like a mistake that you made early on that maybe you would recommend people not do? Or learn from?
I did just want to add that Matt is like one of the most incredible musicians in the world. And I know that you're up here to like talk about your recording, but Matt is like really, really talented. I was thinking that while you were talking. I was like, oh, you're such a genius all around. Okay. Man. I mean, I can just say, even as an adult, the things that annoy me, and like, I think just this is more tailored towards, okay, we'll start with the most basic. Be a good human being. That will get you real far. Being like a wonderful, genuine human being. I think both of these beautiful people have talked about that as well, and like all the things they're discussing on stage. But just being a good person and like that will create genuine connections with people. I would also say, as a band, time. Like if you are playing a show, checking in with what time should I get there. Get there at the time. When you're playing a show, how long is our set time? 30 minutes? Play 30 minutes. And when you're done playing, get all of your stuff off the stage right away. There's nothing worse than when you're playing a show and it's like, especially like talking about DIY, it's like the show needs to end by 10 because we have neighbors or whatever, the cops are gonna bust it up. There's a band on tour that's playing last. If you mess this up, the band that's actually on tour is not gonna get to play. There's folks that I'll see, like we've played, on tour many times where these like local bands will play who are incredible, but then they're just like, all their friends are like, oh, you played so good, and the drummer's just up there like taking time, like taking a cymbal off like for 15 minutes. So that's something that's like, let's hurry that up. So like being aware of your set time and your like prep time to set up on stage and to like break down on stage and like break down off stage, I think is a really important thing. I'm trying to think about mistakes. I really just feel like you touched upon it a lot, Seth, about like just, I think a lot of people like they try really hard and people see through that. And I think that with the internet, things are a lot weirder now because everyone's like, the internet has taught everyone that in order to matter, you just have to like post nonstop. And I feel like that's not working for a lot of people. And I find it like, there's a lot of folks that have like huge social media followings that bring no people to a show. And then there's bands that can bring everyone to a show that have like no social media presence. There's also bands that I see that are like the biggest bands and they barely post. They'll post like the ugliest flyer and it'll get like 3,000 likes because people like the band. So I guess what I'm saying is be genuine to you, but don't try so hard to do something that doesn't feel like it's not you. I would say be a great person, be really timely with a show that you're playing, meet people at the show that you're playing, don't play the show and then leave. I know sometimes people have jobs, but like if you are trying to genuinely connect with your community and meet people, it doesn't happen when you play a show and then you literally pack up and leave and like don't stay for the whole show and like connect with all of the musicians and the people that are attending the show. And then just be yourself. I know it sounds like super corny and common, but really be yourself. That applies to the way that you're gonna advertise for your art. If that's like the road you're gonna go down, just be very genuine with your approach and intentional.
And Seth, kind of the same question. Is there anything that maybe you would do differently?
I mean, I love everything that you said. That was phenomenal. Being yourself is phenomenal. That's great. And I'm going to kind of also say, love yourself. Work on loving yourself. It's a journey. It's hard to be yourself and therefore love yourself when we do have social media. And it's so easy to compare yourself to other people and where they are. I mean, for me, this is my life, and I've got these huge dreams. I want to do all these things, but in order to do that, I have to be sustainable, and I have to be able to just stick at it. And if I'm not able to love myself, if I'm not able to be okay with the moment I'm in, then you can easily burn out, and you can easily start hating yourself because you're comparing yourself to other things, other people, whatever, and you're like, man, I wish I was there, whatever. Don't do that. Don't do that. It's something that you work on every single day, but having grace for yourself and knowing that you're a human being and you're just doing the best you can do. Okay, I've got all these little things, okay? I hope it's okay. But okay, so one time I was speaking to this one dude, and he told me, one of two things happen to a perfectionist. Either they're never happy with what they do, or they die young. That's it. That's what happens when you're a perfectionist. He said, instead of striving for perfection and comparing yourself to things that you see, take every moment that you have in life and do the best you can in that one moment. Because our life is filled with little moments where we have the chance and the option to do the best that we can. And then leave it. Do the best, know you did the best, come back again, do it again. And people will perceive it as perfection, but it's just you doing the best you can. And if you're doing it that way, and you're loving yourself through that, hey, Seth, yeah, you cracked on that one note during the song, but I mean, hey, you put the practice in, you hit the other note that you didn't hit last time. Good job, You do that, then you'll be able to be working at this for a long time, because you've got options, or you've got chances, countless chances, to be seen, to be heard, whatever it is you desire to do. You have countless chances because of social media and stuff. So really it's just a game of how long can you stick at it. And so, yeah, I'd say love yourself, work on that.
And Matt, I want to switch it up just a little bit. I want to make sure I have a lot of questions. We're not going to get to them all. What are some tips or things when it comes to live performances? Because you might be at the Funhouse, you might be at here, you might be outside somewhere. What are some things that musicians can do to make sure that they're getting the most out of their live performance?
First off, I endorse Carly's message to pack your stuff up fast. Stop screwing around, okay? Punk Mom will tell you what's up.
Yeah, Punk Mom will, I'll keep it real.
There's no more punk time. That's over. That was 2000s. That's done. No, play the room. Oh my gosh, play the room. Don't bring half stacks, just don't turn them up. Bring whatever you want. Don't be super loud in a small space, just play the room. Don't play too long. Play the set you're allotted, you know what I mean? Keep it pro and keep it tight, and respect yourself and respect others enough to give them their space as well. Absolutely.
Caryl, you mentioned, it was interesting, you said some people post 1 million times a day and that works, and for some people that does not. Individually, I'll ask each of you, social media wise, what works for you? What have you found is a good method of social media?
Well, I also want to add to what you said, which is comparison is the thief of joy. That is super important. And while I feel it's good to use other people's journeys as a map for where you want to go, try your best not to dwell on that, because it does become a nightmare if you are comparing yourself all the time. There's always memes that are tell 10-year-old you what you would, They're oh my gosh, I've played all these shows. 10-year-old you would freak out. So I always just try to remember things like that. But for social media, I don't know. It's also become I have to say for me and Matt, because we were around for we were touring when you had to use a road map. And you had to call someone for directions. There was no internet. You literally booked your tour by calling people. This is like, we're grandma and grandpa up here a little bit. And like, it's definitely become a much better world for everyone, which I'm really happy about. But so like, it's weird, like having social media to promote yourself is really cool. But I also just find like, the algorithm doesn't even necessarily reward that anymore. So I just feel like be yourself on the internet, do what you want to do. I use my personal Instagram to pretty much post about my dog, but it's also like my licensing account. So like if I have clients that are looking at my Instagram account, they're literally seeing like me and Tom on vacation and then like a Nike commercial. It's all together. For Slingshot Dakota, it's a mix of like promoting for our shows, but then also showing who we are when we're like in a silly mood. Because again, we're not trying to live online all the time. Like we have a life, we have a corgi that we want to hang out with. And then I recently started a wedding business called Processional Professional, where I do custom wedding entrances for people. And I've noticed that when I post on Instagram, I do that as well, just for clients, but I feel like when I post that stuff on TikTok, it always just takes off way faster. So it's kind of like seeing, putting your energy towards those things and seeing where it goes, seeing where it lands, and it's kind of like reading the room, but like of the internet. But also like, again, everything is with intention. So for me, I don't want to be online all the time. I have realized that my comparison game, that's something that I have a really hard time with for sure, because like when you're really trying it, like when music is your only job, it's hard not to get down on yourself and compare yourself to other people, being like, I do the same thing and I'm better than that band. Or, it's so easy. Like if you've had an evil thought in your brain that you think is like rude, I've had it. All of us have had it. It's so natural to be like jealous of your friends or jealous of these bands' trajectories that you want. And so I feel like really just being honest, and like sometimes for me, it means I can't be on the internet too much because I start like getting down on myself. I start feeling insecure about my own journey when I'm like, my journey is awesome, it's mine. So do what feels comfortable to you, and if you start feeling like you're getting like insecure and like not being the best version of yourself because the internet has the ability to do that, then take a break and go cuddle an animal or do something that brings you back, because I promise you, if you're doing what you love and you're doing it with all of your intention, then you're doing the right thing. So that's my take on social media. It's weird. It's a hard thing.
And it was different for everybody, I think, too. Because, some people might be more inclined to do TikTok. It might not work for other artists. Whereas, Seth, you do a lot. I don't want to, you're all over the place. But what is your methodology when it comes to that? What are you thinking when you're promoting a show with social media? How has it helped you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, so the main thing just to know is that social media is secondary. So always have it in your mind as something that's secondary. It's not primary. It doesn't matter. It's just an icing on the cake, okay? What matters is that you're a product. So make sure your product is good. You as a person, as a thing, whatever it is you are good, and you're secure in yourself. So that way you can be yourself. Just be yourself, on social media. But a lot of times, I feel like for me, it's easy just to put social media first. Like, I gotta post every single day. I gotta do this. And you can easily burn yourself out by doing it that way. Where what it should be is, okay, yeah, I put in like an hour of practice. Yeah, I put work in on the back end. I have a show coming up. So I've already got my product together. I got my thing. We're good. I'm not relying on social media. Now I can just tell my friends about it. So let me post on social media and just be real, That's my thought.
I want to make sure that we have enough time for Q&A. So I do want to I have like one or two more questions. But talking about social media, let's also talk about radio. We have two radio stations here today, WDIY, WXPN. They're playing local music. Matt, can you talk a little bit about the radio's role in 2023 from your perspective for local music?
Well, like radio stations are still they're throwing shows, and there's still a reason to want to exist. They're validation. You know what I mean? Like knowing there's someone there who wants to play your music, who might play your music, who might put you on a bill. That's like a motivating factor that drives people. That's a big reason why we do tape swap radio, is so that one, it makes a sense of place because you get to see local bands on a stage, at the studio, on a rooftop, doing their thing, and it makes other bands, well, I want to do that too. I can do that. They did that. I want to go on the roof. I feel like their role, like, it's going to turn people on to new music too, somewhat. I think there's kind of a culture that develops when the stations like DIY and XP end. MUH too. You can't forget about MUH. They're throwing great shows right now too. And they have a long-standing history of kind of creating a little culture there too, where they bring like interesting different bands to the Lehigh Valley. So kind of like a blend of all those things, really.
And for Seth and Carly, how do you approach that? Is it something where you're, maybe you're messaging? Are you making relationships with people at radio stations? Is it kind of always an ongoing thing?
I feel like that's not an approach that I've really prioritized in life, but I feel like, especially as a new band that's starting out, like just reaching out, connecting to anyone is always a really good idea. I also want to add, like, keep it brief with any reaching out of people you're doing. A lot of people just don't have time, and the internet exists, so they can hopefully find your music and get your vibe and see if it's something that they're interested in. But both of you reminds me of something really important too, and that ties back into the advice, but also social media. If you're asked to play a show, promote the show. I feel like Chris downstairs has been like the biggest like curmudgeon of that, but it's the truest thing. Like, there's nothing worse than when like you're putting a show together and the bands that you asked to play like aren't posting about it, and you're like, we're trying to make this an awesome event for everyone. So the more people that come to the show, the more people see your band, and like we'll love it. So I just wanted to tie that into that. But yeah, I guess for any kind of connecting, whether it's a radio station or otherwise, I think if you're genuinely reaching out to people, keep it short, put a link in there so they can find your Spotify, and don't maybe reach out every day because people don't like that. But yeah, just reach out, and maybe you see them at an event like this, or at a show, you see like, oh, there's some concert that my favorite band's playing, and maybe WDIY is tabling it or something. Go talk to them.
I do want to open it up to questions since we have so many people here. It's awesome. And if you don't have any, I have a bunch more. So is there anybody in the audience who has a question for anybody on the panel? If you can stand up and just yell really loud. I don't have the mic.
Cool. I'm sorry. I can.
Carly? Me? Oh, no. Seth?
Seth?
Seth. So I've got like a solo artist thing going on too, for like music and stuff. Like, how do you balance like the creative aspect of creating and producing your own music versus like taking the time to network and make friends, and also like be able to read the room with maybe just like one person on stage with integrated electronics stuff?
Well, that's a great question. I hope I'm going to answer it pretty succinctly and accurately here. So, scheduling your life is important. When I first started getting into the Philly scene, I would schedule, I'd probably have like one day where I'd go to maybe an event or whatever, and I'd meet some DJs, that I spoke to on social media or whatever, get their contact, but I left it to like one day, and then, the rest of the week I'd be booking myself, maybe making some TikTok videos or whatever. But then, if you're trying to do music, it's a lot of hard work, okay? So just know that doing what you love is a privilege, and it takes work to do that. So there were like some long nights where I just literally networking. I would go to clubs in Philly and just meet up with the DJs and just say hi, because I want them to know I'm a person. And it's not really like I want anything from them, but they're super talented, great people. And maybe like in the future when I got a show at the Fire or something, like I want a DJ to play. So now I've got a friend, I can be like, hey, you want to play? And since they know me, and they know that I'm not just like a random dude or whatever, like they're more likely to, want to be a part of it. And it's just really cool. So yeah, scheduling, and just know that, you got to work for sure. So yeah, not a lot of sleep.
I'm already there.
Anybody else? Go ahead.
I have a mic over here by the sound.
Or you're good. I can probably hear it from there. But yeah, he does have a mic over by the soundboard as well. Go ahead.
I guess this is a question more geared towards Matt. But what's your advice for like bringing the best out of an artist without like being overly critical or like breaking them down?
Just create a ton of space for them to be themselves. Like, think of it like imagine like you have infinite space, you know what I mean? And like create a space where they feel like they can try anything they want, and just make them feel super comfortable. We're all talking about reading the room and like feeling people out and stuff like that. You'll know when it's time to insert some kind of criticism or something like that. I was working with this producer in Los Angeles like 14 years ago, and I was like a little green, and I was like, this guy's not doing anything. He's just like hanging out and hitting record. Like, what is this guy's deal? Why am I only like putting like mics on guitar amps? I'm like, what is this? And then he like gave this one little critique at the perfect time that changed the whole tone of the session and kept it moving and got a better take out of the band. I was like, oh, that's exactly why he's sitting there and I'm not right now. So just create space for people and be like really, really strategic with like timing comments to people and just feel people out.
I also just want to add to Matt, our friend Todd that we've recorded with, in addition to Matt, is really good at giving space, and a lot of times, like, we'll do it with him when we record something, we'll do like a demo version with him. So whoever I know not all studios would offer this because they're oftentimes very expensive, but if you can go to like a friend or someone that does recording, so you can just even do like a rough demo of that so that you can hear what you want to work on. But I feel like the thing that I really love about Todd is that when we record with him, he'll go, how do you feel about that? He's very therapist about it. He's now becoming a therapist.
People literally call it that too.
Yeah, and he'll be like, how do you feel about it? And then it like literally, I'm like, was it bad? But he's really just trying to like get you to feel your session out and how you did. And it's really tricky because I'm like, can you just tell me if that was bad or good? Like, I don't know. And then sometimes it'll be like, your first take was the best one. And like, so it's all about too, like the artist asking the honesty, because sometimes people don't want that, right? Like sometimes the artist does not want the engineer to weigh in. It depends who you're working with. So usually you go to an engineer because you like their quality and like the way that those recordings sound. But I think just like maybe establishing that dynamic too and like what the communication style is going to be. But yeah, space for sure is like the biggest thing.
You're a gentle mirror.
Yeah.
A gentle mirror.
Writing that down. I got some good notes here. Any additional questions? Yes, sir.
For Carly. I do have a question for you, but first I just want to say your cover of Dracula's Lament is the most
thank you.
piece of art on the internet.
I was just thinking that I have to repost it because I saw there's a Finding, is anyone on TikTok as much as I am? There's a Finding Nemo meme right now, and it's like a puppet of Nemo, and everyone's like, Nemo, I need to get my oil changed. And it's like, where's my dad? I'm all alone. And so someone like did a human version of it where like someone's the Nemo puppet going like, and I was like, oh my God, that's literally what me and Tom did with Dracula's Lament. Like, I think this is the time to repost it. I think people will get it.
Yes.
But so thank you.
My question to you, your music video for Casino Night was so fabulously done.
Thank you.
I just want to know if you could talk about what it was like to work with Adam and Audica, maybe some things that you agreed on or disagreed on in order to achieve that overall creative narrative.
Yeah, so music videos are always really hard for us because we're music visionaries, but not like artistic visionaries. So as a band, I'm never really particular with understanding like what a video should look like. Me and Tom's videos are honestly, when we brainstorm them, are so stupid. Like one time we were like, we should do a video where we're on stage being like adamantly like vegan, and then like at the end of the video we like go to the green room, we're like eating burgers. It's like a whole thing. It's like political. Like everyone, our whole take was like bands are trying to be like one thing on stage, but they're like total like dicks, like in the real world, which is like a thing that you really run into in the world. So like our music video ideas were terrible, but when you have people who know how to do music videos and they do them well, it takes that pressure off of the bad ideas that you have for your music videos. And so I was really grateful that they reached out to us because I remember at that point in time we were like really taking our last record, Heavy Banding, we were like really going for it. And we had a publicist and we had like every single thing, like, we had a whole checklist of things that we had to do, and that included a music video. And I remember they reached out to us like right when we needed them to. And I remember seeing like the deck of what they wanted the video to be. And I told them Casino Night is about friendship. It's about kind of like losing your friend. It's about the trauma of like having a best friend in your life and you grow apart or something happens and kind of like tears at that relationship, and how it's just as meaningful as like losing a lover. And so they like really captured that narrative in like their own way, which I never would have thought to do. And so, yeah, I mean, I feel like as musicians, you trust people who trust you. And when there's that understanding, you just like go full throttle in with it. Because like I said, B and Tom's ideas for music videos they're straight up bad. Like they're not good. We don't know what to do. And so like that's for someone else to help us with. So like we outsource that. And then you find the right people that, you know, especially you see their reels. So you see like these are videos that they've done. They're really good. So ours will like match that energy, you know? And then there's other times where like, you know, we've done other videos. I think all the videos that we've come up with have actually really all been great, but it's nice when it's like a seasoned team that knows how to do a video and everything's like done in a certain amount of time and, you know, you don't have to think about it. So yeah, it was great. It was a great experience and I loved it.
Awesome, thank you.
Do we have any additional questions out there? Yes, sir, in the back.
So, Seth, you said you play in Philly a lot as well, but I see that you play in Valley as well.
I do, yeah.
How do you like, do you live in Philly? Or do you live in here? Like, how do you get, like, so if you're playing a show in Philly, like, is this like a lot of social media presence to promote? Or, you played shows in Philly before, and nobody knows because we're from the Valley.
Right. Dude, I love your question. I'm about to save you a lot of time, okay? So, first off, you asked how do I get to Philly, and my first answer in my head was like, I have a car. You know, I just drive. No. So I live closer to Westchester, but I was born and raised in Allentown, and I started my music thing here. So probably like 4 years or so. And then I just moved to the Philly area like a year ago. The way I started getting people to come to my Philly shows was I started going to open mics in Philly, going to those, you know, clubs with the DJs, saying hello, following people on social media when I, you know, so, okay, we're gonna talk about like networking and working a room, you know, like you walk around, you see musicians, hey, that's a cool amp you have, oh, hey, dude, what's up, I love your hair, I don't even know, like, just say hello, be a person, and then like, you know, you get to, you know, learn about different people, and then they learn about you. Also, what's cool about what I'm doing is that like the shows I put on at the Fire, they have my name on them. So I'm not only like playing in some of those shows, but like my name is there. So people they see me, and you know, it's really cool working that way. But if I was in a band that was primarily in the Valley and I wanted to play shows in Philly and bring people out, I would, one, just go to as many open mics as possible. Like, you know, you're not making money, you're paying money to go, yeah, but I mean, you get to go in front of new people. And then also, something that's gonna save you time, dude, when it comes to reaching out to people and getting people to come to your shows, posting on social media is the last thing I would ever do. I wouldn't even, like, bro, okay, so I played a show at Godfrey Daniels, okay? Like a couple months ago, sold it out in a week. I set a record for the venue, and they've been around for like 70-some years. It's an honor. I'm humbled. But the way I did it, dude, is I reached out to everybody individually. Like, and I was very strategic about it. So, like, all my friends, I had a spreadsheet, put their names on the spreadsheet, you know, on my Instagram, I use social media just to set up a poll, say, hey, I'm playing in the Valley, would you ever want to come out? You know, got those names, put it down. I posted once on social media, every single person who liked the post or commented, I reached out to them, like individually reaching out. I've got this information by playing shows and nobody comes out, you know, so you try different things. Email lists don't work great. Posting on social media doesn't work great. But what does work is that relationship you have between people. That's the most important thing. Yeah. You winning, bro. You're winning now.
I could add on to that too, that like find a random show with some bands that you vibe with. Like some bands that kind of seem like you and whatever. I did that like a month ago, and I met this dude in upstate New York, watched his band play at this weird venue, and like, he's so similar to me, and he's a nice guy, and he's an engineer too, and a producer, and now he's like talking about coming down here for a weekend just as a getaway to record. And it's just gonna be a fun weekend, and it's a dude who's kind of like me, who I get to hang out with and work with now. You know what I mean? So just pick somewhere random to go where bands are kind of like your vibe. Yeah. You'll probably meet somebody who like you'll want to bring up here, and they'll want to bring you down there, and then like have an actual relationship.
I was also going to say, find someone who's booking a show and not just filling a slot. A lot of these venues are like, hey, you seem cool, you know, like there's something, hey, Slingshot Dakota, you want to play whatever? I'm like, you literally just auto-filled the email, and then I'll be like, who's playing? And then it's just like nothing, and I'm like, oh, this is like a club that's just filling a 5 o'clock slot or whatever. And like, I'm not saying you're not going to learn and grow from doing something like that, but that's not a genuine show, right? Like there's I think Arlene's Grocery in New York City, like we get so many emails from them, and it's like, they're like, oh, you just played, do you want to buy a $500 recording of your show? And I'm like, no. And it's like, it's very much fill a slot, you know, like, and so I think it's really important, like when you're looking to branch out of the Lehigh Valley, with what everybody's saying is really accurate and very dead on, but also like creating that community, making friends in those things, and also not just playing shows. Someone could ask you to play LA and you're gonna spend all your money on that, like just for fun, right? For yourself. If you've never played LA before and no one knows who you are here, no one's gonna know who you are in LA. So building up that community, building up that, you know, that identity, and like that's gonna attract the right people to you, and then you're also gonna be playing like an actual show somewhere instead of just like, oh, they're just filling time with artists. You know, a lot of promoters are just trying to like book talent for the bar night, you know? So it's important to know the difference between the person that's just trying to like fill a room with like music versus like the people that are trying to like book a show.
All right, we have time for one more, if there is, right there.
This is for Carly. So the music industry is primarily like male dominated, and I found that I've had, you know, comments made in the past, like when I played shows, being like, "Oh, you're so-and-so's like girlfriend," and I'm like, "No, I'm like the singer." And so I guess my question is like, how has that affected you, obviously? And because you're shaking your head, yes, but how have you navigated those kind of things as a woman in music?
Usually I look at them and I go, it's 2023, girls are in bands now. And then they're like, and then they're like, can I help you carry something? I'm like, no, I can do it myself, dingus. Like, guys are dumb. But yeah, it's, I for some reason, I mean, it sucks and it's annoying, but I feel like if anything, it makes me like play even harder. Cause I'm just like, F off, dude. Like, are you kidding me now? Like, I mean, this is like, we were touring like in the early 2000s, and the amount of times that I would show my ID, like loading, and they'd be like, oh no, this is band only. I'm like, I am the band, you know? And just like things like that. Like, Tom has watched me like kill people with my eyes many a time, and then I like tear it up on stage, and then they're like, you're really, the amount of people that have given me judgment and then try to be my best friend after, I'm just like, yeah, dude, like, it's time. So it happens, and it's BS, and it's still happening in 2023. In 2016, I really rallied against like the lack of diversity and like major tours that were like under the guise of punk and inclusivity and like different, like doing something different. And I'm like, these are all straight white male tours. There's no one on them. And then like the industry fought back by just putting like opening bands that they would pay like $50 to, of like people with diversity in it. And I know it's a really hard conversation to have, and I don't know what the answer is, to like have people exist and like crush it so that it's just diversity naturally emerges when you see yourself on stage, so you know you can do it. But I also know that it's not just like, oh, we're just gonna like start tokenizing folks too and like putting them on tours. But I rallied really hard, and like our band got burned from that. Like literally I had people that were like, our agency was like literally told not to book you on any shows because of you calling that out. Like I ruined a good amount of years for our band because I was speaking out. I didn't care. I was just really over it, and then, you know, it becomes to a point where it's like kind of debilitating on your mental health, and other people have taken, you know, the torch and spoken out about things, and it's not an easy thing. And yeah, I just say like to you and to other people, like just do what you want. Like when you love yourself and you're confident and you just show up, you're showing other people like you that this is for them too, because art's for everybody. And it's still a problem. There's still a lack of inclusivity and stuff, and people are trying. Sometimes I question like their intention of it, if it's just to like say, you know, so the internet can't call a tour out or something like that. But it's still happening, but it's like something that I think the conversation has been continued a lot more, and a lot of people have been very vocal about it. So yeah, it sucks, but I'm here, you're here, we can do it.
Unfortunately, we have to stop. I think we could keep going on, but we're in the interest of time. I just want to say thank you to everybody here. This is amazing. And thank you so much to our panel for coming on. We attempted to record this, so if you want to hear it back, we'll have a chance to put it up on reevaluatelove.com. I want to thank everybody again. I want to bring Ryan back up, and I think these guys, they're going to see him walking around. So if you didn't get a chance to ask him a question, they'll probably be happy to do so. Ryan, you want to come back up?
Thanks for moderating. I feel like we didn't applaud you.
So now we're going to ask the industry experts to find their way to their tables stationed throughout the Ice House, and then we'll open up the networking portion of this event. So there's going to be some tables up in this back room, some tables down here. Those industry experts will find their way there, and then you can kind of ask them anything you want about your music career, about the local music community, and we'll keep things going. So thank you all for coming. Thank the panel once again, and let's have some fun.
Thanks for doing this.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you, Ryan.